Having said that, what are the important articles in today's Hindu? Have you gone through the important articles? The basic exercise is what? Looking at the articles. So on day one, when Israel-Palestine issue came, I told you that India's official stand is more important than anything else. What is India's official stand? Two-state theory. So India has always been a strong proponent of the idea of two states theory. So this article more or less discusses the same point. India reiterates call for sovereign Palestine state. So in the due course of time, you have clearly understood Palestine is different from Hamas. Hamas is a group of labeled a terror group, right? Hamas are a labeled terror group. So nobody is willing to be associated with them or wants to support them. Terror group is different from Palestinians. So India is supporting whom? Palestinians' right to have a peaceful state. Point number one. Second thing, right? Next, India also says that we have an obligation to uphold the humanitarian principle. Right? Why humanitarian principle? I said in the Russia-Ukraine war, India have a template. What is the template? Stop the war, continue the dialogue, go for peace, and live and let live. These are the policies of India. Okay. Here you have to remember, India follows a de-hyphenation policy, but India still supports a sovereign Palestine. Two different things. See, what is de-hyphenation? For example, when I say Israel and Palestine, that hyphen that we use is like a association, right? That means Israel and Palestine. Whenever I mention Israel, I also mention Palestine. When I also mention Palestine, I will mention Israel. It's like a twin. Yes or no? But India follows it now. After Prime Minister Modi came into power, he follows a principle of India, Israel, India and Palestine. There is a clear-cut de-hyphenation. What is de-hyphenation? That we no longer bothered about linking both of these two terms. Okay. Now, right. So, India also wants to work on what? Sovereign Palestine. And we are focusing on what? Upholding humanitarian principles or humanitarian obligations. Right. Next. We have an IR expert among our midst. So, okay. Right. So, what will India gain by this? Templates, right? You have to develop templates. What are templates? India always advocated for resumption of direct negotiations towards establishing a sovereign and independent Palestine. Okay. You will not change your answers just because somebody said something. Okay. Your answers are always consistent. Your consistency comes from Ministry of External Affairs. Today I will support Palestine. Tomorrow I will not support Palestine. It won't happen. India's consistent stand is towards value-based obligations. Okay. So you have to focus on values. One day when you read IR, basic IR, you will hear something like India's foreign policy, values of Indian foreign policy. What are the foreign policy principles that drive India? For example, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, etc. And all these times you will understand humanitarian values have always been very, very important for India. India is a liberal country. Okay. Next. I assume you have been reading previous year questions? No? Yes or no? So if you know, then de-hyphenation question is a previous year prelims question. Okay. If you are not aware of it, I don't know what you are doing in UPSC. Right. Next. Retail inflation. Did we ever discuss about inflation in our classes? At least once? No? Just basic passing references have been mentioned. So this article won't make any sense to you because you still have to develop some basic understanding for what is retail inflation. But we have clearly discussed this much, that inflation is retail and wholesale. That much you know. Okay. And here retail means whom? The average consumer, right? It affects directly the day-to-day life of ordinary citizens. So is it a good thing or bad thing that inflation is coming down? There is not even a discussion, right? Inflation at a less level is good. That is one thing. Second thing, here what can be the prelims question? Sumant, what can be the prelims question? CPI. Okay. Then what else? There is a concept called as inflation targeting. There is a concept called as inflation targeting. In India, inflation should be 4 plus or minus 2. So if you are crossing that, then there is a problem in the country. Just for today's class, that much you remember, that's enough. Next time I won't be repeating this. Please remember what is the term inflation targeting. You have to keep that word in the mind. Okay. Anti-national reports. Okay. Right. These are anti-national, no? Why? They are blaming India. Is India a poor country? Are Indians hungry? Till now, the other day we were discussing non-communicable diseases are increasing, people are having obesity, people are dying, and then the other day, next day you say India's rank is 111 out of 125. So that's a false report, anti-national report. Indian government will clearly not accept this report. So there is no point discussing this article, right? Okay, right. So for understanding sake, please remember India's rank is very wrong or very high in the global hunger index because the measurement that the report takes is wrong. So the problem is with the report, not with the country, not with India. Okay, right. No. Why we have to discuss this? We have to discuss it from two perspectives. One perspective is what if the report is true? Okay. If not, to what extent the report is true? Right. Next, if I don't want to believe in that report, what is the alternative? Do we have any government of India report which shows how much hunger is in the country? The problem is not with who is giving the report. The problem is with this term, that is hunger. India is home to food surplus buffer stocks, right? We have a lot of food available. Okay, the problem is not with the availability of the food. Now our friend here will tell us the definition of food security again. Food security is accessibility, affordability and availability. For the fourth time I am repeating this in the class, if you remember. Third time or fourth time? So many times. But that message should be very clear. Food should be available, affordable and accessible. So in spite of having lot of food, if there is hunger in the country, okay, then the problem is somewhere with the availability or availability is there, affordability and accessibility. Food is not accessible to everyone. Second, right? What else? For beginners, think about it. What else have you heard in the news about food security? Recently, Swaminathan, Green Revolution. We have read all such articles. Okay, so food is not at all a problem. Then food is not being delivered to the last man in the line. Somewhere down the line, we have seen about Gandhiji's talisman, right? Last man in the line should also get the food. Is the last man in the line getting the food? No. Yes? Yes or no? No. Why? That is your main question. What should we do to help so that every person in the country gets minimum amount of food security? Then as your governance classes starts, you will hear something about National Food Security Act and others. Okay, food is a guaranteed in your security. That means fundamental right says you have right to life with dignity. You cannot stay hungry. So government has a responsibility both legally and morally to give you food. In spite of all these things, food is not being delivered to the last man in the line. What is the problem? Okay, and the sub context is, even if I give food, okay, there is some more concept called as hidden hunger. Probably people are not getting food, rice 3 times a day, but they are not getting enough nourishment, nutrition, right? So that is how you have to see. As I said, 99.9% fix, this government will blame the report. Right. Okay, and I wanted to discuss this article also. Many people won't even look at this kind of articles, not available probably in Hyderabad edition, right? Right. So why is this important? Which paper? What is this term? Stalker stabs 23-year-old woman. Who is a stalker? Stalker. Who observes? Hmm. Never heard of the term? Winner? Huh? Yes. What is it? Observing is stalking. Huh? There is cyber stalking, there is physical stalking, right? Following someone without their permission, or observing, as you mentioned, intruding their privacy to a very deep extent. Like, all these things more or less come under stalking. In simple language, a girl is walking on the road and you are following her. That is a stalking without her permission, of course. Okay. Now, what is the problem? Stalking is a problem. Okay. First of all, after 2013, the Nirbhaya case, it has been made into a crime. Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013 says stalking is a crime. Okay. This is more about patriarchy. This is more about what? Patriarchy. This is one kind of social evil. Okay, which has been promoted, celebrated by movies also. Spider movie, Mahesh Babu follows Rakul Preet Singh. Okay, so that is purely stalking. We have seen so many movies, right? What I am trying to tell you here is, the person's ego is hurt so much that if not mine, if the girl is saying no to me, if she is rejecting me, the person is willing to kill her rather than accept a no. I hope you understand. Yes. So here, as a societal perspective, you have to think why some men in the country or youth in the country are misguided. That is also a part of faulty socialization. Yes or no? No? Patriarchy tells you that you can have anything. Yes or no? The problem here is not about stalking. The problem here is your inability to take the no. The problem here is your grooming or feeling that it's your right to say yes. Oh, I followed her for 4 years. She's supposed to say yes. Aaj nahi to kal, right? Okay. So somebody has to tell the people that this is a societal problem. We have failed both of them. Okay, and this is not the first case, there are hundreds of cases. In case when you are reading society, patriarchy and all those things, you might feel it very funny, sir, what will happen if a boy follows a girl? Okay, probably 8 out of 10 boys will leave it at there. Okay, followed her, she didn't respond, you dropped. Okay, but the two might go to the extreme. That is where the problem comes into the society. One day in GS paper 1, UPSC might throw some random idiotic question saying what are the problems of patriarchy in boys. The other day essay came, no, men have responsibility, so on and so forth. Okay, right. Stepwells is for important art and culture, you can read it. So again, I don't want to spend too much time on this article, but all of you know what this article is about. What is this article about? Bihar caste census. How many of you remember the official name of the caste census? 2011. Thank you. What is the new caste name census? I am asking about 2023 Bihar caste census. All in one has to be revised. No? Caste census, hai na? What is the bottom line? What is the takeaway that I told you? Caste census is for the welfare of the people. What gets measured gets improved, but the problem is it should not be misused. It should not be misused for vote bank politics. So that is the bottom line again. But Manoj Kumar Jha is a very fantastic orator. You can watch his speeches also, right? He actually appeals very logically in this particular article, and his bottom line is what? Social justice, right? His bottom line is social justice. But before that, I want to do a basic discussion session, right? So మాట్లాడతారా? ఏమైనా ప్రాబ్లం ఏం లేదు కదా? విల్ కమ్ ఆన్ స్టేజ్. ఏం కాదు, ఒక 5 నిమిషాలు. I want them to have a understanding. ఏం కాదు, I will tell you one topic, right? So before that, I want you to meet someone who is my student first. Right? And he has been my student since 2019. He has been my student since 2019. He gave 2 interviews back to back, hoping for the best this year, right? So that's not in our hand. Okay. So yesterday I discussed something about UN Security Council. What will you write in the mains, right? So my template was what? UNSC reforms are needed, but people who are in power are not allowing the reforms. India is one of those definitely eligible countries. What are the good things about India? What needs to be done and the way forward? Okay. His optional is PSIR. So he definitely wrote political science perspective and international relations perspective. So I want him to discuss the same article and what other perspectives, that what are the keywords that he will use. Just for 5 minutes, you see from his own perspective, because once upon a time he was just like you. He was in the same class, he was in the same DNA classes in a different place. Okay. We started from the scratch, right? And I also want him to share how and why newspaper reading or have helped him in the overall journey of UPSC at various stages of the exam. Because it's not about me saying something, right? It's not about me doing something for you. It's about student reading the newspaper and how does the class make a difference, or why you have to read newspaper on your own, right? So I want him to share your perspectives. So please welcome Mr. Sriram Kaundinya, right? So for 5 minutes. తీర్థంలో పోస్తేనే అదేమంటారు, శంఖంలో పోస్తేనే తీర్థం. Yes, no matter how many times I tell people newspapers are important, you have to take that perspective from the scratch. You can tell them, no, and it will also open some perspectives.
Sir, talk about the Stalker article. ఇక్కడ ఏంది? Acha. So sir spoke about the Stalker article just now. When I was writing this year mains, there were 2-3 articles which I directly picked from the newspapers and used as examples. So when you're sitting in that exam hall, all you can recollect is the organic newspaper reading, where you see multiple similar examples happening over time. So only if you read newspapers, you can pick up examples and substantiate your arguments. Else it will become very difficult to find the right words and the right examples. So newspaper reading will probably give you that extra edge of putting a right example or using the right keyword in the exam hall. And it will not be in any materials or any value addition monthly magazines. You can only find it in newspapers. So if you have read this year's question papers, there is a GS1 10th question in GS1 which talks about how a child is impacted because of parenting not being proper. We were talking about faulty socialization. Yes. So fubbing, that was one of the words which was there in newspapers, which was in some similar context was discussed, and that was in my memory. After 3 years, I never used a word for 3 years, but in that moment, I was able to recall that word and use because of reading newspapers. So all the keywords, whatever you are seeing here, will make your answer different from everybody else's answer. So putting it plainly, this will be your value addition to pull you from 90, 95 to 100 and 105. And so I don't know if everybody is PSAR, but assuming everybody is PSAR, this is a every year repeat topic. So it's a part of the syllabus and it's a repeat topic every year in the optional. The first thing which comes to my mind when I see university reforms is why India and what is justice. is the current ecosystem of Security Council a just system, or is it an unjust system? And how institutions are affected by people and how people impact institutions. So, neo-institutionalism and institutionalism, which we study in PSR, will link to this. And coming to, I didn't read the article, I'm sorry. But how can we reform UNSC and who is responsible for reforming UNSC? It's not only the P5 countries, but it's the responsibility of everybody. So all the countries should push for equity, equality. And what are the things which UNSC has to take up as well? So there was a recent article about an year back on climate justice being discussed in UNSC as well. So is it important or is it not important? And what is the role of UNSC in protection of human rights? So every time we look at UNSC, we see Ukraine, now we are seeing Palestine, and the idea of UNSC and its relationship with UN General Assembly also becomes very important. Responsibility to protect. UN General Assembly has been time and again trying to say that it is a responsibility of the UNSC to protect human rights everywhere. And we have also seen how it is misused in the Libyan case. So we also see terms like collective security. If anybody's PSR option, probably will understand. There are ideas of collective security, institutionalization of peace, and how peace is the responsibility of UNSC. It is supposed to be the global policeman, the global watchdog of peace and human rights, and how it has failed spectacularly. Coming to reforms, there was a previous year question on how UNSC is supposed to be reformed, what Kofi Annan said about it, what Ban Ki-moon said about it. So those kind of things are also there. Okay, I'll just go through the paper and say what all questions are there. Same paper, I guess. So as sir said, this is a 2018 prelims question. Two-state theory is related to. Okay, they gave us 4 options. And retail inflation, it's a recurring topic, inflation. You will find it every year in GS3 in one form or the other. This year, it is 5 years of Monetary Policy Committee. So unless and until you remember this 5% in September, 6.3% in August, your answer will be very generic and not specific. There's one more article which is... if people are from PSR, they'll also understand how why social justice is important. Rawls' theory of justice is a recurring topic every year. And caste, ethnicity, religion in politics is a very recurring theme in PSR. And Israel, West Asia is an evergreen topic. Every year, there was a question on I2U2 last year. And the moment you bring in I2U2 or the India, Middle East, Europe corridor, all these are being threatened by the instability in West Asia. So if you can bring in the India, Middle East, Europe corridor, Hamas and the current disturbances, your answer will be elevated. So every article which we read, we have to link it with the right words in the syllabus copy. So usually, sir, you should suggest have a syllabus copy with you along with your newspaper, and each article, whenever you are reading, which paper you are is it linked to, and within that paper, what is the topic you are linking it to, so that the article has some context. Otherwise, it will just be an article and you don't know where to use it. So over time, what happens because of the practice is, once we become very familiar with the syllabus, the articles are fodder material for our answers. Sir was talking about templates. So for every question or every previous year question which we see, we'll develop a template on how to answer the question. Say this is the body, this is a conclusion, this is the introduction. We'll have a structured answer, and what becomes important is the current contemporary relevance. So they keep on changing when we keep reading newspapers. So I would recommend you to read newspapers, and more than it being just a value addition for the answers, or that it will help you develop a better understanding of the subject. Most of the times, if anybody of you gave 2023 prelims, there was a question on the number of seats in the weightage of a seat of a vote of an MLA between Kerala and Madhya Pradesh in the president election. If you just know the numbers or if you just try to make a wild guess, you couldn't make a wild guess. If you have read newspapers, you will at least have an idea on how many people are there in Madhya Pradesh, how many people are there in Kerala. That will come only out of experience and reading newspapers. And it will help you develop a complete perspective of the syllabus and deepen your understanding. Because I usually read Rajamohan's articles in Indian Express. That will probably that is what I used in my mains, whatever he says. Because over time, once you get accustomed to reading somebody's articles, you get a deep understanding of the subject and where the things are heading. So if you keep reading newspapers, it is like a revision of the syllabus, it is value addition, and more than anything, it will give you confidence. Because at the end, everybody will have a fear of missing out on something or the other. Current affairs, what if something comes, or National Food Security Act, as we were talking right now. What if there's a question on that? If you can remember this article, or even if you can recall hidden hunger, it will help you enrich your answer on that day. It will give you the confidence that you have seen it somewhere, studied it somewhere, and in my experience, 40% of prelims questions come out of the sky. Nobody knows where they're coming from. And that's where newspapers really help you clear prelims and make your answers more better in terms of main. I don't know if I addressed the questions. Yeah, anything to ask? Sure. See, context becomes important for everything, right? So if you read the whole article, you will understand in what context the article is in. So if we see this article on inflation, that 4 plus or minus 2 will give us the context. If we know the 4 plus or minus 2, we can see that we have gone from 6.83 to 5. So unless you know the static part or you understand why it is important, it's hard to retain the data. So if you look at more questions, either previous year questions or any test series questions, it will help you understand what kind of data you will need in writing an answer. Rather than just reading newspapers from the perspective of just picking up data, you have to know where will I use this data. That will only come from reading previous year questions. So if this rank is there, 111 out of 125 countries, where will we use this? If there's a question on progress of SDG 2 or India's progress in achieving sustainable development goals, you can use it in your introduction. Over the last 5 years, we have been there and thereabout, and we have not improved a lot. So now I gave you context to the article, so the data will make sense. Otherwise, we'll have so much data and we don't know whether we'll use it or not. You will only remember it if you understand where can I use it. So when you're reading an article, if you have a syllabus copy beside you, and if you link it to that syllabus copy word, let's say buffer stocks, okay, and 25 million tons. So I was saying we have more buffer stocks. So the 25 million tons is what we need. Only if we know that, or only if we know where am I going to use this, then this article can be used or can be recalled. And I never made notes or anything for current affairs. It was more about can I give context to an article and how long can I retain it? Definitely we'll do revisions, but it was more from the perspective of understanding and filling the gaps. So a data point will only make sense in a context. So what is the context? Any other questions?
Hope you got some perspective regarding the same, right? At the end of the day, the journey of a 1,000 miles start with a single step. So I'm pretty sure when he sat in my class on day 1, he might have felt exactly like you. Are em maatladutunnavu, em cheptunnavu, enduku anta, right? There are, see, that is quite natural. But the problem is, why are we discussing so many things? What are you trying to say? What are these fancy words and all these things? But it took me good amount of time for me to imbibe that message that context is everything, and the context comes only from reading previous year questions and setting a boundary, because newspaper is not created for UPSC, right? Newspaper is created for general society. Within that, as a UPSC aspirant, how am I using the newspaper to write a good article? Yes or no? 75 years of independence, okay, we are about to, let's say, Amrit Kal, 2047, India is having a vision of 100 years of independence. In 2047, what kind of India do you want to see? I will probably quote this by saying, I want to see the rank 1, at least one in the 1 should be removed. Yes or no? I don't want India to be 11 in 125 countries. I want India to be a 11 out of 125 countries. That means I don't want any Indian to be poor. Okay. Or what is the relevance of Gandhi in 2023? That is my question. I will use the same data point. How? Antyodhyay, that is the poorest, weakest man in the line, has to be held. If this rank is true or not, irrelevant of that, are we wiping every tear from every eye? No. That means we still have some work to do. We cannot stop. Again, bringing Swami Vivekananda. Yes or no? Arise, awake and stop not until the goal is reached. What is my goal? To wipe every tear from every eye. Am I complete as a democracy? Am I successful democracy? Yes and no. Why yes? I'm feeding a lot of people. Why no? I'm still having some people to be taken care of. Okay, and the same data point you can look at from 10,000 different perspectives. The change is in your mind. Yes or no? You can look it at the very boring data, 111 rank out of 125. Okay, from polity perspective, what does polity say? Article 21. What is Article 21? Right to life with dignity. If somebody is not able to eat 3 times a day, is he having a dignity? No. Governance perspective. Is good governance enough for democracy? Yes or no? Is good governance being delivered in the country? Again, I will cite this and say, we are doing good governance, but we still have some steps to reach the good governance part. Yes or no? Next, also think about it. Why should I blame government all the time? Why should I blame government all the time? Isn't responsibility of the only government to take care of the poor people? As a human being, don't you have responsibility? We will enter into the realm of ethics, philanthropy. Okay. There was a question, Western philanthropy or philanthropy is going on, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Okay. If you go to any temple, we have Annadana. Okay. If you go to any Sikh Gurudwara, they have Langar. Yes or no? During Ramadan season and all these things, we have food donation, charity, and all these things. Almost every religion out there will donate food. And food is probably that Indians donate. Annadata Sukhi Bhava. Of all the danas, Annadana is very great. So when we have so much cultural weightage, why are Indians hungry? Right? We can also talk it in the lines of inequality. On the one hand side, we have Ambani, one of the richest man in the world, Adani, richest man in the world. On the other hand side, we are saying Indians are not even having food to eat. So, is it only government who should be blamed? Private sector, what are you doing as an individual to feed the poor? Or you can pick up examples like rice ATM in Hyderabad. Rice ATM in Hyderabad, or that means free rice is given to the poor people by a private person and he is funded by the crowd. Okay, or you can talk about Akshay Patra. These are not tying up with the NGOs. NGOs are trying to feed the poor. So government sector, private sector, at your individual level, everybody should strive to solve the problem of hunger. Yes. Now, can we throw in climate change into the discussion? Will climate change accelerate hunger problems or reduce hunger problems? It will only accelerate the hunger problems, either climate refugees or through reduction of agricultural productivity. So agricultural productivity will be less, yields will be less, probably availability of the food will be less. That will only accelerate the food problems. So can we use technology, that is gene editing, gene modification, so that we can feed more people? Again, it will go back to our original discussion that availability of food is not the problem. It's the accessibility and affordability, right? What else can we do? We can also think in the lines of creative out of the box solutions like Operation Suleimani by Prashant Nair in Kozhikode, where free food is given to all the poor people, tokens are given to them and they can go and eat in any hotel, and the tokens are again paid back by the district collectorate, and the district collector receives money from the public again. So the problem here is perspective. If you just know that one line, the rest all is your thought process. It's the upper limit is your imagination. You can use it in 10,000 places, or you can just read it. Okay, I read what? India 111 in out of 125 food index. The problem is not with the data. The problem is how you are using the data. As I jokingly say, every article is like a grocery. It's like a vegetable. Okay, it depends on how you use the vegetable. If you give a tomato to someone, somebody will make a rasam, somebody will make a chutney, somebody will eat it raw, somebody will do something else. Every data point is what? a raw ingredient in your hand. It's your craftsmanship that will decide how well it is used. You can write it as a very, very boring point, or you can elevate it to next level. As he was saying, I can even drag in sustainable developmental goals. Yes or no? Sustainable developmental goals, very, very important for the overall planet. We need to feed the hungry. Clear? So we have indirectly discussed a mains answer. How do we eliminate poverty, or how do we eliminate hunger from India? Or question can be next. See, this is one dimension that we expect. UPSC will throw in a bouncer. Hunger is not the problem. Hidden hunger is the real problem. Then you need to add that layer of hidden hunger, nutrition part. That is again one more out of the box solution. We can also talk about midday meal schemes. We can drag in Narega. Yes or no? And I'm limiting my knowledge to your knowledge, because you have heard about all these terms. That is why I'm discussing only Narega. You have heard midday meal scheme. Basically, you know. Can we use all these things to fight hunger? Yes or no? How Narega and hunger are related? Employment, I'm giving you money. That money will be used to buy some food. That is a basic assumption. If I don't have a scheme called as Narega, rural hunger, rural poverty will increase or decrease? It will definitely increase. Got my point? So look at newspaper from syllabus copy. Look at newspaper from previous year questions. All the every single point that I have discussed is a boundary that is given to me by UPSC. If I ask about hunger, I will ask from these perspectives. Or one more level we can add within the hunger basket. That means people who are hungry. Okay, whom do you think are the worst affected? Women and children. Obviously, right? Vulnerable section. I say hunger ante if you are hungry, that means itself you are a vulnerable group. Within the vulnerable group, who are the worst affected? Probably women and children. Yes, why women and children? They are the weakest among the vulnerable groups. Now you can throw in caste, differently abled, and other things. That will only accelerate the problems or reduce the problems? Reduce the problems. How did I link caste and hunger? Caste will limit your mobility, either socially or economically. That will accelerate your poverty. Poverty means hunger. You get the point? Away chuttupakala caste, hunger, food. Today you are putting dots. Okay, but one day all the dots will start connecting among themselves. But if you don't even understand what is caste, what is hunger, what is poverty, then I cannot collect all the dots. But one day when you know all the dots, it's your creativity in the exam hall. You can play very nice music, or you will write a very, very boring answer. Clear? Anna? So what you have to learn from the newspaper classes is how to extrapolate or how to use this data and connect it with syllabus copy and previous year questions. If you do only two things per day, that is connect them with previous year question and syllabus copy, without even realizing, you are subconsciously developing a huge canvas to paint. Okay, one day when you start connecting the dots, the painting will be very, very easy. The dance will be very visible. Clear? Okay, I know none of these things might make sense to you today, right? But you will do it one day. But you have to slowly, patiently invest the time and energy in reading newspaper. Okay. So where was I? Probably editorial page, right? First of all, if you don't even understand the term social and justice, okay, it will not even make any sense to read this article. So we'll simply try to understand what is social justice. Do you know preamble? Polity classes completed? Polity classes you have heard, no? You must have heard about a secret book called as Lakshmikant. There is a very hidden chapter called as preamble. So what are the justices that have been promised in preamble? Economic justice, political justice and social justice. We have discussed this in the class? No, never. We have discussed. Long ago in childhood, when you are in NCRT classes, I told you one thing. Political equality means every person will have one vote. So we are giving political justice. Then I also mentioned Dr. Ambedkar's speech. We are entering into a life of contradictions. That is, we are giving political justice, but not social justice and economic justice. What is social justice? See, I am not even entering into genres, theory of justice and all those things. Very simple. What is social justice? As a beginner, what do you think it could have been? Very good. Without being discriminated as upper caste, lower caste and all these things in where? In the social sphere, in the society. That means if you walk into a hotel, you can sit anywhere, you can drink in any glass, then there is a social justice. Huh? In a way, that is social justice, no? There is no discrimination. But if you go to some places in, let's say, some parts of the country, they will not even allow you to enter the hotel. Why? You belong to a different caste, religion or something. Then there is no social justice. Or we can go into little bit more simple understanding. There is a well in a village. Okay. Can anybody drink water from that well? Nowadays. Okay. If you cannot drink, then there is no social justice. Okay. Any other thought processes? There is an entire NCRT dedicated to social justice. Highly recommended if you can read that book. 11th class. 11th class NCRT. The book title itself is Social Justice. It's a very beautiful NCRT. It will introduce you to wonderful concepts. I encourage you to read it. Okay. Again, as I said, we can go line by line, but that is not the purpose. Next. This article is also extension to the same concept, that is social justice. It also includes little bit of political justice and economic justice. Why? The moment I say reservation, it has so many connotations. In India, normally we have reservation system based on the social background. You have a historical injustice. SC and STs have been discriminated, your vulnerable groups. That is why socially backward groups have been given reservation. Then we have classes in OBC, that is also fine. Recently, for the first time, we have given EWS reservation, that is economic weaker section reservation, based on the economic criteria, not social criteria. Ante India lo for the first time, because of your social justice and economic justice or lack of it, is leading to what? Assertions in the name of reservation. Okay. Ante people want to be associated with some group so that they will avail some benefits from the society or from the system. Now the thing is, we have a cap of 50%. Who decided that 50%? How did Supreme Court come to the decision of 50%? Indira Swani case 1992, fantastic, but how? Who decided 50 is the right number? Hasunda. Oh. Who decided that 50 is the right number? Is 50-50 justice? Think about it. Is 50-50 justice only? Two people are there in the room. I will tell you a very simple example. There are two people in the room. Then there is 1 kg of cake. Okay. So what is justice as per you? How much should I get? How much should I get? Half of the cake is mine, half of the cake is yours. In your eyes, that is justice. Sure? Why? How much he can eat? Only that much I should eat. Okay. How much will I eat? Depends on me. Okay. I have the capacity to eat 750. I have the capacity to eat 750 grams. Is it justice? Say, I am sorry, you are student. You are afraid of me. Are manasare gada. You allowed me to eat 750. Then am I doing justice to you? Are we actually having a justice? Why not? You only said no. You can eat as much as you can. I'm even having more capacity. I will eat 900 grams and you can only eat 100 grams. Why? I can eat. Your capacity is only 100. Then you understand the concept, right? So justice is a very beautiful concept. It's a very delicate concept. 50-50 may not be justice all the time. At the same time, not saying 50-50 is also not the correct thing. Who decides 50-50? Right now people are saying, I have the capacity of eating 750 grams. You should only eat 250 grams. Why? New numbers have come into the picture. So why should you eat what? 50%. You have only capacity to eat 25%. So let us now change the equality. That is 75 is the new 50. Are you getting the point? I hope you understand. Is it correct? No? At least base అయితే అర్థమైంది కదా. What is the entire discussion that you need to understand? Justice for me is 5050. Justice for him is 6040. Justice for him is 8020 or 80 and 20 or 80 and 20, 20, 80, whatever it is. Okay. Every person will start looking at justice from a different perspective. But there is your justice, there is my justice. There is actually justice. Yes or no? Right now, at least we have a consensus that 50-50 is justice. Technically 49.5. After EWS, we have given what are that concept also. In India, how much reservation do we have right now? 59.5. Huh? 63 including disability. Okay, fine. You understood my concept, right? So already we have a 60-40 share, technically speaking. 40 for the unreserved, 60 for the different groups. So that is that justice? Yes, according to Supreme Court of India. I was not aware that you have a class now. We will continue tomorrow. Thank you. See you all.